Have you ever thought that in just one moment, all your trust could be shattered? One message, one secret, and the person you considered your everything turns out to belong to someone else? What do you do when love becomes nothing but betrayal? You think it's just a nightmare, but it's the harsh reality.
Hey, I'm Alyan, and I'm 29 years old. Growing up, I was always the quiet one in my family, an observer more than a participant. My parents were loving but had their own issues, like many couples do. We never had the perfect family portrait, but I always had a sense that we could figure it out as long as we stuck together. I guess that's where my beliefs about love and relationships began, that whole love conquers all mentality. I'd always been the type to believe that if you put in the effort, everything would work out in the end. It's funny, isn't it? We all have these idealized versions of how relationships are supposed to go. But life doesn't always play by the rules. I've learned that the hard way, through my own experience. Right now, I'm in a good place, but that wasn't always the case. Let me tell you a story about how my beliefs about love were completely shattered, and how I found myself at a crossroads in my life. It was a regular Saturday afternoon when I first found out. My girlfriend Sarah and I had been dating for 3 years. I thought we were solid. No major fights, no trust issues, nothing. But one day I found something that shook me to the core. I was cleaning the house, going through a few of her things while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, I promise. It just happened. Like a gut feeling, you know? Something told me to look, and when I did, I found messages on her phone that I couldn't ignore. They were flirtatious, and not just a friendly flirt. These were intense, intimate conversations with someone I didn't know. My heart sank. The trust I had built up over the years was suddenly shattered. I had never imagined in a million years that she would cheat. But there it was, in black and white. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and at that moment, I didn't know whether to confront her immediately or let it simmer. I thought about walking away, but I couldn't. This was my reality now. This was the woman I had invested so much time, energy, and love into. Could I just walk away? The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The messages kept replaying in my head, like a broken record. Every little thing she did began to feel like a lie. Her smile, the way she would laugh at my jokes, it all seemed like part of some facade. I could feel myself falling into a different place. But I couldn't look away. I decided to confront her. I had to know the truth, even if it broke me. So one evening after dinner, I sat her down and asked her about the messages. At first she denied everything, tried to brush it off, but I pushed, and she cracked. The truth spilled out. She admitted that she had been seeing someone else for a few months, someone from work, someone who made her feel special in ways I hadn't. I was numb. I felt like my world was collapsing around me. How had I not seen this coming? How could someone I loved, someone I trusted so completely, betray me like this? She apologized, said she was sorry, that she didn't mean for it to go this far, but the damage was already done. I didn't know what to feel anymore. Was it anger? Sadness? Betrayal? It was everything at once. The worst part? I felt stupid. How could I have been so blind? A few days after our conversation, I started digging deeper. It wasn't just the messages I found. There were pictures. Intimate pictures. Pictures that made my stomach churn. There were also promises of future plans with this person. Vacations. Dinners. Things we had once dreamed of together. I was drowning in this sea of deceit. One night I decided to show up at her workplace, hoping to confront the man who had taken her from me. I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe an apology, maybe a fight. But what I found was something I never anticipated. She wasn't at work that night. Instead, I saw her car, parked next to a familiar one, a car I recognized as belonging to a guy named Mike, someone she had mentioned a few times but I had never met. My heart raced. I approached the car, slowly, trying to stay calm. But as I peeked inside, I saw them. Together. In the parking lot, the world around me spun, and I realized something that I had refused to admit to myself. She wasn't just having an affair. She was in love with him. I walked away before they could see me, feeling completely defeated. What was left for me now? I had already been replaced. In her heart, in her mind, I was just a placeholder. The days after that were like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, couldn't get anything done. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the face of the woman who once promised to love me forever. How had everything gone so wrong? Closing her eyes, she glanced back up the hill at the landscape beyond. I tried to reach out to my friends, but the truth was, I didn't even know what to say. How do you explain this kind of heartbreak? How do you tell people that the person you thought you knew better than anyone else was a stranger to you now? There were nights when I sat in the dark staring at my phone, hoping she would call or text, telling me this was all just a mistake. But that never happened. She didn't reach out. It was as if she had already moved on, and I was the one left behind. I felt so small, so insignificant. I had given her everything, and in return, she had given me lies. I wasn't angry at first. I was just lost. It didn't take long for the ripple effects to reach my family and friends. They all knew I was upset, but I couldn't bring myself to explain everything. My mom was the first to ask if I was okay, and I just broke down. "You deserve better, Alian," she said, and I could barely hear her words through the tears. But at the same time, part of me didn't want to hear it, because if I deserved better, why didn't she feel that way too? Why hadn't she seen my worth? My friends were supportive, but it was clear that they didn't fully understand. "Just move on," they said. "You're better than this." But how do you move on when your whole world has been turned upside down? It wasn't just my pride that was hurt. It was the idea that everything I had believed about love was a lie. How could anyone ever trust again after something like this? How could I trust myself? The days turned into weeks, and things started to feel normal again. But there was a part of me that would never fully heal. Every time I walked past a couple holding hands or saw a romantic movie, my chest would tighten, and I'd feel that familiar ache. Sarah and I didn't speak much after the breakup. She moved on with Mike, and I tried to rebuild my life. But there were days when I found myself questioning everything. What went wrong? What I could have done differently? And if there was ever any hope for a future where I could trust someone again. I never got the closure I needed. I never got an explanation. And perhaps that's the hardest part. But life keeps going, doesn't it? If you've experienced something similar or know someone who has, I want to hear from you. Leave your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Relationships can be messy and complicated, but we're in this together. Thanks for listening to my story.